Hey nerds, my name is Chris and welcome back to my second video in the series of me attempting to master 3D printing, specifically with the SC-10 by LotMAxx, which was provided to me for reviewing purposes. In my last video, a viewer asked me in the comments if I could share LotMaxx's recommended settings for this printer, so if you want to, you can go ahead and pause the video here and copy those down. While I am talking, I would also like to share with you some of my favorite successful prints I have done to this point. These videos are not meant to be instructional, but serve the purpose of sharing my experience, learning how to properly operate, troubleshoot, and ultimately have success with in-home additive manufacturing as a complete beginner, and I hope we can all learn in the process together. I'll link the first video above if you'd like to check it out. It's a bit long-winded, but my experience has been complicated so far, and I had a lot to say. So, over the last couple of months, I have proven to myself that I indeed can tune this printer and turn out some truly great prints. Fun and sometimes even useful prints in PLA. But I aspire to use some of my prints outdoors and sometimes even leave them in a hot car, which PLA is just not suitable for. So, like most people, I quickly became interested in PETG, which promises to be nearly as easy to print as PLA with very few drawbacks, with the added durability and heat resistance promised by copolymers. So why has PETG been such a pain in the butt? I ordered some new PETG filament from Amazon from the brand Overture, foolishly thinking that it would be as easy to tune as my PLA, and boy was I wrong. For the life of me, I cannot get these prints to turn out. I was expecting PETG to print similar to PLA, with a little bit more stringing and a little less clean surface quality. I did see both of those issues along with brittleness and many failed prints. The PETG prints started out terrible with basically non-existent layer adhesion and poor extrusion. I pretty much came to the conclusion that my printer prints much cooler than is indicated by the screen, so I figured I would jump up the temperature and try again. This did lead to somewhat better results, but they were still not good results, or even acceptable. I kept tuning to the point where I was printing at temperatures as high as 250 or even 255 degrees Celsius, but I ended up having to slow the printer way down to 25 millimeters per second on the walls and 30 millimeters per second on infill. That is drastically slower than the 60 millimeters per second for walls and 80 for the infill that I use with PLA. I think that slowing down the prints was what has helped me the most on PETG. I had read that PETG is a bit more sensitive to cooling as well, so I wanted to start honing in on that sweet spot for cooling and printing temperature. I prepared several G-codes for a micro all-in-one printer test that I found on Thingiverse. I'll link that below. Starting at 240 degrees Celsius and 0, 20, 40, and 60% fan speeds all the way up to 255 degrees Celsius. My printer errors out approaching 260 degrees Celsius, so I was unable to try anything hotter than that, even though I replaced my PTFE tube with Capricorn tubing. I ended up printing 3 of these all-in-one micro test when I just ended up giving up. These things were failing all over the place, stringing like I had never seen before, poor bridging, and the overhang tests were failing or falling apart and breaking off before I ever even got to 30 degrees. I suspected something else was going on, and I decided to swap back out to one of my favorite and most reliable PLAs just to double check that my printer was operating at peak performance. It wasn't. Even on PLA, my prints were under extruding, brittle, and ugly. I disassembled the entire hot end, cleaned everything out, replaced my nozzle, calibrated my extruder's E-steps, and was still getting poor and unusable results. Even though my PTFE tube was fairly new, I believe that it was clogged. I saw much better results after changing that out as well, but I was still getting what looked like layer shifts, but only on the back of the Y-axis. So I got back to tuning, tightening bolts, adjusting belts, and pulleys, when I finally identified a seized pulley wheel on the hot end carriage. I'm not sure how that would lead to issues printing only on the Y-axis and only on the backside, but either way it needed to be replaced. A week later, my new wheels arrived, I replaced them, and to my surprise that fixed my PLA issues. Immediately after replacing the wheel and re-leveling the bed, I was able to print this near perfect calibration cube, and then finally was able to print this beautiful Hero Me Gen 3 cooling upgrade. And man, oh man, am I happy to be back in business. So back to PETG. I reprinted a Vinci and a half to see if we were back in business, and I'm pretty happy with the results. But I still do not have my PETG settings tuned in to a level where I can reliably use them. On every PETG Vinci I have printed, I have had two issues. One, there's this layer line at the exact level of the interior deck that is weak, and I can snap the bow with very little effort. That's happened on every single one of my prints. Always at the same spot, no matter what changes I have made. Could this be a slicing issue? Not really sure. And if it is, how the heck do I fix that? The second consistent issue I've had is along the base of the smokestack, where all prints have either failed, began to fail, before eventually recovering while having no structural integrity at all. Solutions I have tried are more cooling, less cooling, more heat, less heat, changing the layer time in order to allow the print to cool a bit before the nozzle returns to heat it up. I thought that last one would work. Maybe my setting was still not low enough or long enough because nothing changed the result. So basically I'm back to where I started, and I'm soliciting help from anyone who watches this and can help me print this 2 kilograms of PETG I just bought. On another note, I think maybe my thermistor or my heat cartridge may be bad because I have to print at much hotter settings than everyone else. LotMAxx did ask me to send them a video of the printer heating up, which I plan on doing sometime in the near future, but I haven't got to yet. They want to see if they can identify any issues with my printer. Thanks again for joining me today. I'll be closely monitoring the comments below for your input. Stay safe, stay sane, and stay nerdy. We'll see you next time.